Takuto is a lonely, terminally ill patient with no friends, and his family only cares about the life insurance payout they'll get, so no one ever comes to visit him in his hospital room. His only comfort is the world of Eternal Nations, a civilization-building RPG which he plays all the time because he has nothing better to do. One day, Takuto falls unconscious because of his illness, and the next time he opens his eyes, Takuto finds himself sitting on a stone throne in the middle of a forest, and while he is wondering what's going on, he sees a woman emerge from the forest, calling him her king. This is Takuto's favorite character in the world of Eternal Nations, but even though he's excited to see her in real life, he doesn't know how he should react. Fortunately, Atu is self-aware of the fact that she was part of a game, and she knows exactly who Takuto is, the legendary player who claimed the top of the user rankings year after year. She remembers every single playthrough she and Takuto have gone through, so she knows him better than anyone, and they are both happy that they finally get to meet in person. Takuto asks Atu if she was the one who summoned him here, but in truth, Atu has no idea what's going on here either. She simply found herself in the middle of this forest all of a sudden, but she's pretty sure that this isn't the afterlife. If she has to guess, she thinks this world is similar to Eternal Nations, but they can't be sure of that yet. Either way, Atu thinks this is a great opportunity, so she asks Takuto if he would like to start over with her and build a kingdom just like old times. Takuto likes the sound of that, so he agrees to work together, and Atu goes through the whole opening sequence, although it's a little embarrassing now that they are actually standing next to each other in person. The first order of business is figuring out where they are, so Takuto uses magic to summon a scout. But now that he has actually seen the scout up close, he is disgusted by how ugly it looks. There's nothing he can do about that. Their Minara is a civilization that rules over darkness and evil, so his early game strategy is to avoid garnering too much attention so they won't get into any conflict, at least until they are strong enough to defend themselves. That's where this bug comes in, so Takuto orders it to go take a look around the area and notify him of anything important. At first, the bug just stands there and stares at him, but then Atu sternly reminds it that Takuto is its commander, so the bug takes off running to complete its task. Takuto was a little concerned that he might not be able to control his troops in this world, but it looks like everything still works the same as it used to. He can also see what the bug sees to some extent, so he should be able to figure out where they are soon enough. Anyway, moving on, it's time for them to think about their next steps. Takuto started off with 200 mana points, and he had to use 100 mana points to summon the scout, so he only has 100 left. He plans to build a settlement to act as their base of operations, which will cost him an additional 20 mana, but after that, he won't have much mana to work with. He was honestly hoping to create a warrior to fight for them in case they get attacked, but that really isn't an option anymore. Atu assures Takuto that he doesn't have to worry because she will fight for him, but to be honest, that isn't very reassuring coming from her. As part of the hero unit, Atu will grow stronger as more time passes, but right now, she pretty much has the strength of a regular person, so there's not much she can do to help. The bug is still zooming through the forest, and thanks to its scouting, Takuto now has an understanding of what this area looks like. But he's a little surprised because even though this entire area is a forest, he hasn't seen any animals or monsters yet. Atu assumes all the animals must be hiding since forest terrain provides a lot of hiding spots, but Takuto's main concern is that if he doesn't find some animals soon, they'll probably have to spend some mana to get some food. Atu apologizes to Takuto since she feels bad about not being of much use, but he tells her not to worry about it because simply having her by his side is a huge morale booster. Hearing that makes Atu really happy, so she tells Takuto she's very grateful for his kind words, but Takuto is having a hard time getting used to how expressive she is now that she's a real person. Just then, the scout finds something interesting, so it gets Takuto's attention and shows him a dark elf settlement in the middle of the forest. It's not far from Takuto's current location, and it looks like there are a lot of elves gathered together. Atu is relieved that it's just dark elves since they have a tendency to lean towards neutral evil, so they won't be opposed to the Minara Kingdom. But Takuto still thinks this is terrible because he can't have another civilization so close to his. His plan was to avoid war by staying hidden for as long as possible, but that won't be possible with the Dark Elves so close. Atu suggests that the two of them should ditch this place and head to a new location, and Takuto agrees since they haven't actually built anything yet, but before that, he wants to observe the Dark Elves a little more and survey the area to see if there's anything useful nearby. Suddenly, Atu senses someone's presence nearby, so she and Takuto turn around and spot a group of Dark Elves emerging from the forest. The Dark Elves seem just as surprised to see them because they had no idea there were other people in this forest. The Dark Elves only came here because they were driven out of their homeland, and with nowhere else to go, they were forced to head into this accursed forest. The journey has taken a toll on the Dark Elf children, and at this rate, they aren't going to last much longer. A small group of dark elves was sent out to go looking for a food source, and the group leader is certain that there must be something edible around here since there's so much vegetation. But Emil is very nervous. She has heard rumors of a dangerous forest at the edge of Idaragia where an ancient evil was sealed away, and she is worried that they might get attacked. The leader assures her that those rumors are nothing more than superstition, because if there really was an ancient evil lurking in this forest, then the trees here wouldn't be able to grow so well. Although he can't deny that the forest is really creeping him out for some reason. As soon as Gio lays his eyes on the Takuto, his heart sinks because what he sees before him is a manifestation of pure evil and malicious intent. He wants to run away, but he is worried that any hasty actions might put him and his people in danger, so he slowly approaches Takuto's throne and kneels before him to show his respect. He introduces himself as the head warrior of the Mazaram Dark Elf clan, and he apologizes for entering the forest without Takuto's permission. Atu has no idea why the elves are acting so respectfully, but she just goes with it and demands to know why the elves would trespass on Takuto's land. Jia begins explaining how his people used to live in the Central Plains and were a peaceful tribe, but Atu ain't listening to all that, so she tells Jia to keep his story short. Jia apologizes and quickly explains that the elf tribe was persecuted and driven away from their land, forcing them to flee into this forest. He doesn't understand why his people had to suffer such harsh treatment when they never did anything wrong. They always aim for peace, but they were attacked and killed due to the prejudice against their race. Takuto takes one look at Jia and notices that he looks really thin, so Jia explains that he and his people were barely able to escape as their village was destroyed, so they didn't have time to pack supplies. And since they've been on the run non-stop, they haven't had time to look for food. In fact, that's why Jia and his team ventured out on their own since it has been 5 days since any of them have eaten anything, but they haven't had much luck in finding edible plants or animals. Takuto feels bad for them, so he decides to help them out a little and uses some of his mana to create some apples for them. Jia is surprised when he sees apples rolling on the ground because he has never seen anything like it. He's hesitant to try it since he doesn't want to be rude in front of a being like Takuto, but Emil and the others are so hungry that they don't care. They all bite into their apples, and it's the best thing they tasted in a long time. Takuto even creates some pears so the group will have enough to eat, but Jia is still in shock from Takuto's kindness, and he doesn't know how to react. Atu yells at him saying it's rude not to accept the gift that Takuto so graciously provided for them, but Jia isn't hesitating because he is skeptical of the food. He presses his head against the floor and says he really appreciates Takuto's generosity, but there are children of the clan back at camp, and they have grown very weak due to the lack of food. They'll die soon if they don't get something to eat, so Jia asks for permission to take this food back to his clan so he can feed the children. Takuto feels bad for the children who are suffering, so he decides to go the extra mile for them and creates a ton of different food for Jia to take back with him. Although, Atu doesn't approve since something like this will cost a lot of mana. The Dark Elves are all in disbelief at the sight of so much food, and they are even more shocked when Takuto tells them they can have it all. For years, the Dark Elves have been oppressed and forced to live in the shadows, so no one has ever lent them a helping hand like this before. The Dark Elves express their deepest gratitude towards Takuto and carry the food back to the camp. At the camp, the Dark Elves are all on the verge of giving up, but a few of them remain hopeful that Jia and the others will return with some food. Just then, everyone in the village smells something delicious, so they all turn around, and to their delight, they see Jia and the others carrying bags of food on their backs. They are all relieved that they don't have to go hungry anymore, and everyone is praising Jia for finding so much food. But when they ask him where he got it, he just says he got lucky, leaving out the details of his encounter with Takuto. Later that night, Jia is staring at the fire while deep in thought when all of a sudden he is approached by the clan leader Molter. He tells Jia that he did a great job today and that the fruit he found were amazing. But he notices that Jia doesn't seem all that happy about it, so he asks him what's wrong. After a brief silence, Jia explains that he encountered a legendary being deep in the forest and he doesn't know how to feel about it. Molter asks what legend Jia is talking about, so he explains that Emil mentioned something about a powerful being that was sealed away in the accursed forest. Molter has heard of the legend before, and he is shocked to learn that Jia actually met the King of Ruin. He explains that according to the legend, when the world becomes too prosperous, the King of Ruin will descend on the land and destroy everything, forcing all civilizations to start over from scratch. In all honesty, Molter can't guarantee that the legend is true, but he is inclined to believe it. He asks Jia if the being he met called himself the King of Ruin, but Jia doesn't remember him saying anything like that. Although how terrifying he looked, a name like the King of Ruin is definitely fitting. Molter asks Jia if he talked to the King of Ruin, but Jia says it wasn't much of a conversation. The King of Ruin didn't say much, but he had a woman serving him who spoke on his behalf. From how Jia has described the encounter, Molter is certain that this being is bad news, so he asks Jia if he had to do something like sell his soul in exchange for the food. Jia explains that the King of Ruin didn't ask for anything in return, but Molter thinks that sounds absurd because what kind of evil being gives things out for free? Jia has no idea why the King of Ruin did it either, but if he had to guess, he would say it was mercy. He assumes that his grace must have sympathized with their predicament and offered aid to save them. Molter is shocked that Jia would call the King of Ruin his grace because that is a title used only to show the utmost respect. But Jia sees nothing wrong with addressing the King of Ruin as his grace because he is someone who deserves respect. Molter can't believe that Jia is actually defending the King of Ruin and asks if he has been hypnotized or something. But Jia points out that the only reason they are even able to waste energy arguing like this is because of the food that they were given by this so-called evil god. And it's not like Jia could have rejected the offer when they were so desperate for food, so what exactly did Molter want him to say? Molter realizes he has no right to judge Jia's decision to trust the King of Ruin, because given the situation, it was the best option. However, as the elder of this tribe, it is his duty to make sure everyone remains safe, so he says from now on, he will handle the negotiations with the King of Ruin. He has been alive for over 200 years, so he's sure he should be able to come to an understanding with the King of Ruin.